Good evening. Welcome to the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 14th. The time is 5:32. I would like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have quite a few minutes to approve.
I'd like to approve the minutes of the special meeting minutes of March 26, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussions? Anyone have any corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of March 31st, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Anyone have any corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 4-0-0.
Make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of April 1st, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Okay, make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of April 7th, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any corrections? If not, all those in favor of approving them signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 4-0-0.
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 9th, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Anyone have any corrections? No. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 4-0-0.
Okay, make a motion to approve the public hearing minutes of April 28th, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 4-0-0.
Motion to approve the special meeting minutes of April 28th, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those, or anyone have any corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 4-0-0. Just want to thank Brooke for all of her hard work doing all of these minutes through budget time. We appreciate her help.
Especially the public hearing one. I know that was a challenging one.
Yeah. Next on the agenda is delegations, where any member of the public could address the board on any of the items that are on our agenda this evening. Seeing no one in the public, we'll move on. Next is reports. First, our first selectman, Mr. Cunningham.
Good evening, everyone. So we have a slide. First on my mini agenda here is the Coastal Resiliency Fund. Tonight, before you is a request for you to approve the recommendation from the Board of Selectmen to create a Coastal Resiliency Fund. If we get that accomplished tonight, then we will be on track to get this in place before the end of the fiscal year, which will allow us to actually fund the Coastal Resiliency Fund. So timing was critical, and we're on track here tonight. So hopefully that'll get approved later on. You've probably seen the doors in the front of the building were taped off. We're in the midst of starting the ADA compliance project at the town hall. One of the first things was to repair the railings going the upper and lower level. So they did the railings at the other end of the south end of the building last week, and now they're working on the north side. One of the next things you'll see is repairs to the restrooms. They're going to be doing that, and then eventually they'll be out front with the jackhammers, putting in the new ramp to make it ADA compliant. So that's going to be going on over the next couple of months, but they're underway and it's moving forward, which is important so that we stay in compliance with the consent agreement with the Justice Department. We're in the final phases of an agreement with the UPSU contract. Those are all the workers, Public Works, and the other departments at the town hall. Okay. And negotiations are going well. We have a proposal before it's going to be taken to the union, and then I will take it once they've agreed to it. Then I will bring it to the Board of Selectmen for ratification. But I think we're in agreement on almost every point, and it's moving along nicely. So hopefully we'll have that resolved in the very near future. One of the features in the new agreement is to begin the move to a defined contribution plan as opposed to the defined benefit plan. And those that are on the defined benefit plan will have the option, if they wish, to move over to the defined contribution plan. So that is a plus for the town, and will reduce some of our liability with respect to the retirement liability. Townwide radio communication. I'm going to be scheduling another meeting next week. We've been working on it, but I want to make sure we're staying organized. It's a very, very important task that we need to complete. It's, you know, over several years there have been snags. It never seems to get done, but I am absolutely tenacious about getting this figured out and getting it right. And Dan Cleary, who's been instrumental in helping us, he contacted me today, and we're going to schedule a meeting next week if everybody's available to keep this moving along. So, very important task. Public safety, well, everyone's been reading the paper. I'm sure you understand that the police chief retired on May 2nd, 2025, former Chief Finkelstein. We had a police detective that also retired, Detective Como. He retired. And then today, it's with really some sadness, I have to report that I had to terminate the deputy fire chief, and that was done this afternoon. I had to weigh the concern for the public perception of our public safety department and fire service, and I had to weigh that, and that's my duty to make sure that the public feels confident. And so, unfortunately, I did have to relieve the deputy chief of his position. On a much lighter note, dog license season is quickly approaching, and we will be. I'll be making sure my little dog Molly, that can visits at the town hall, gets her dog tag. So those are all the main things that we've been looking at and working on. It's been a busy few weeks since I last met with the board. That's all I have to report.
You know, on the same note as the dog license season, it's also golf cart season.
Wow.
So I want to remind everybody that it is a requirement that they register their golf cart. They do that at the police station. There is I think it's a $35 fee. They have to bring their registration and proof of insurance. So not just not just property insurance, but the actual
Vehicle.
VIN number, and show that it's separately insured as a vehicle. So,
It's a good reminder.
Yep.
But
Also get your beach stickers too, because we got
that's coming up.
less than 2 weeks, and
Yeah,
you'll be
but-
able to park. And you,
Beach stickers and the dog licenses and golf carts and boat registrations, all that's
summer's here.
Yes.
before us. So thank you.
Does anyone have anything else for Mr. Cunningham? No. Thank you.
course.
Next on the agenda is reports from our finance director, Mr. Gervais.
All right. We've got quite a bit to talk about tonight, and I'll try to make it as quick as I can. I did kiss the Blarney Stone, so I do have a gift of gab. So just some things to talk about. Just
Can I interrupt on a point of order, please?
Unknown caller.
No, I'm sorry. The point of order only applies to the people that are
It only
the
applies to
appointed.
town people?
It applies to the people that are on the Board of Finance here. It's our meeting, so if one of us had a point of order.
It didn't when I was your chair. Where did they change those regulations? Part of Robert's Rules of Order.
We had, before you arrived, we had delegations where anyone who wanted to address anything that is on the agenda tonight had a chance to do so. We also have public discussion later on.
Neither reply, mine a point of order. What I have to say may negate what you do tonight. It may very well negate what you've already done.
I'm sorry, that's not part of our agenda this evening, so we would
But I
like to
think
move
that not
on with.
recognizing point of order is not correct either. That's what a point of order is.
I'm sorry, this is not the place for this. I'd like to
It's
move
the
on
only
with my.
place I could have done at a public hearing. I would have embarrassed all of you in front of 400 people. I didn't do that. I did it here on purpose so that you would understand exactly the points that I have.
If
I'm
you,
not a
if
stupid
you'd like,
person. I've done a lot of stuff.
if you'd like to save your comments for public discussion, we'd be happy to hear them then.
I'm blind. Person has to stay here, and I have to pay somebody to be able to do that. I couldn't get here in time because I could not walk here, and I didn't have a way to get here. I got here as fast as I could. And point of order usually ensures that you can interrupt a meeting at any time on a point of order. I'm dumbfounded at your reaction.
If you would like,
Let me,
I
let me
would,
do this.
I would,
Hear the board.
yeah, does anyone here want to make a motion to entertain this gentleman now, or no?
No, we got public discussion at the end of the,
Yeah,
when we're done. That's,
okay. Kevin, can you continue with your,
Alrighty, so some things to talk about tonight. The fiscal 23 audit update, the fiscal year 2025 budget versus actual with revenues and expenditures, third quarter balance sheet report, which is a handout, the fund balance projection, which we'll talk about in a little bit, local cannabis report, we'll report on the second month of our local cannabis taxes. Okay. And then ARPA, the ARPA fund report, and finance software upgrade status. So, everyone has a copy of open items list from our audit. This was updated through this afternoon. There is one real major item left that we are beating like a dead horse, and we're going to get this over the finish line, is the sewer assessment. Unbilled versus billed, and so we're just trying to tie this amount out, right? So it's not just a one-year thing. We're going back to do a restatement for June 30, 2022. We're working with our vendor, so this is an ongoing issue. This is the one thing right now that's been holding up our audit report. We're trying to get this out the door here. The second we start this, the day after we finish our 2023 audit, 2024 will start. The good news is, since we are, the one little silver lining in all this is, since we are behind on our audits, when we've been asking from departments request lists, when we're requesting the 23 numbers, we've also requested the 24 numbers. So a lot of the numbers and reports we've already rolled forward. That's why in our timeline we presented, I think last month, to the board and to MFAC, the Municipal Finance Advisory Committee, we have a much more accelerated timeline for the 24 audit. Right, a lot of the reports have been rolled forward. We're implementing fixed asset software, so we're not going to have to go around and count how many streetlights we have and make sure the high school's in the right location and the middle school's over there. So we've done a lot of deep diving into a lot of the assessments, the fixed assets. So now we have reasonable assurances on our starting balances, our ending balances, and we are going to roll those forward. Okay, where was I?
I understand Mr. Cunningham brought up at the Board of Selectmen meeting that you guys had to have a meeting with the state regarding the audits.
Correct. Yeah, we've had them for 2 years now, Municipal Finance Advisory Committee.
Okay.
We're one of the towns that get brought in front of that board and report on a quarterly basis.
Our most recent one was in person in Hartford
Last
Okay.
Wednesday.
last Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay.
And that went very well.
Yeah, you can just keep us apprised of when that happens, because, you know, we're the oversight for the audit, so.
Of course.
Where are we with the audits now?
So we,
What was that?
so we have one major open item left for fiscal '23. It's the sewer assessment. The audit is not going to be finished until we come to reasonable assurances that the auditors are comfortable with the beginning balance. So it's going to require a prior period adjustment for 2022, and then, you know, make sure we keep these work papers rolling forward, reconcile revenues versus revenues and receivables. So really, it just comes down to the sewer assessment fund and the actual starting balance of what's out there, what's outstanding. That's kind of where we are at the moment for sewer assessments. Does anyone have any other questions with the audits? I did make a mention that the audit partner informed me this afternoon that she will be leaving at the end of May. I have an introductory call with the new partner next week, and I will pass her name on to you guys when it becomes available. All right. Highlights. So I sent along, I think it was Monday night, I sent the revenue side of the budget versus actual over. Revenues are looking really good. I provided this afternoon, just trying to find it here. There is you guys should have a handout for from the tax collector. It's double-sided. One side says current year, the other side says prior year, last year. And what we did was we ran the tax collector's report through today. So you can see we're trailing what we collected last year on a percentage basis, but we are still very healthy. Do you have this right here, Rich? Okay. Yep. So if you look over to the bottom right, you'll see the collection rate for the current year. Our collection rate is 99.08%. And if you remember, just in our budget deliberations we were just doing, we had a collection rate from the prior year, for the current year we're in, of 98.2. We're collecting, we're already at 99%. So that 99% we put in for next year's budget looks to be realistic, right? We should be able to hit that, you know, pending any major issues. So the one that kind of keeps me, that's the biggest X factor in all this, is that S account you see there. That's supplemental motor vehicles. That's really, if people don't buy new cars and they don't get assessed a supplemental motor vehicle tax, that doesn't come in. We are budgeting $550,000 for that number. So if you look year over year, oh, okay, going up. Last year was $616,000, the supplemental motor vehicle. This year, the total was $685. We've collected $597 already. So that's about $50,000 more than we were anticipating to collect. So that's nice to see that number is holding steady. Well, of course, we'll have to see what, you know, taxes on the imports, you know, the tariffs, how that impacts this. Just going some more other numbers that are, you know, that are looking strong this year. Investment earnings, that's really dependent on what the Fed does with the rates. If they hold them steady, that helps this line. Right. So right now we budgeted $1.2 million to collect in investment earnings. We're at 1.4. I estimate that number to come in just a hair over 1.5 million. Okay. And then looks like I just copied that tax collector one down there twice. Okay, when we get to expenditures, I was anticipating having an expenditure report, but there's been a few bills and events that have happened in the last week. So I'm anticipating, with Dan's blessing, with the board's blessing, a special meeting the week after next. So next week is the last Board of Selectmen meeting in May. So if we could be the last week of May, if anyone's around, potentially a special meeting, we might have to do an additional appropriation. So a little more than a budget transfer, an additional appropriation. One of the lines is going to be the investment earnings. So just keep that in mind with some large expenses we've had come down the pike over this past week, right? some of these individuals that have retired or you know, they're owed certain accrued time off, whether they retire or are terminated. So there's things we have to pay out, right? So some of these things were unexpected. And we've had a few larger legal bills come in the last week. So we're just trying to get our handle on this. But I only want to ask once for an additional appropriation and budget transfers. So with just everything shaken out this week, next week I'll have a better number. We'll present to the Board of Selectmen that proposal. Hopefully, you know, discussion, possible action, we get that approved, and then go before the Board of Finance to get that approved before year end. So just to keep that all in the air, I have a budget versus actual I could send over. There's a few numbers that are startling on it, so we're just trying to wrap our heads around those and go from there. One thing I will mention, in conversation with Dan, we did have a vehicle reserve in the fire department, at a $50,000 line in capital for vehicle reserve. This year we've had numerous breakdowns of these vehicles, and I talked to Dan about it, and we've used that just in this past week to pay for some of the larger unanticipated expenses for our fleet. There's a few vehicles that are out of service right now that need tires. I know we have tires in the capital projects list, so our goal is to take that $30,000, replenish this with it, but there's some vehicles that need to get on the road to be used, and there's not much money in the general fund right now, so this reserve we had sitting in the capital account was a good. It was good to have that reserve there for instances like this. So just want to give everyone a heads up on that. We've spent about $36,000 of that $50,000. There's $24,000 left, and we're anticipating $30,000 replenishing that this year. So that account originally was, you know, for new vehicles, but it's kind of turning into a vehicle repair and reserve account, depending on how large. You know, one of the motors was $9,500, I think, to repair on one of the vehicles. So it adds up quick, especially when you have a pretty good sized fleet of vehicles. Okay, so we mentioned that. So I will send this over. I can send over the current one. I have a budget versus actual right now, but it's not a projection through year end. So I can send that even tonight, just so you can see where we are, and we can go from there. And I'll update you once we update the Board of Selectmen on those the potential additional appropriation. Fund balance. So I'm not anticipating us using any more of the $1 million of fund balance, just due to some of the revenue lines we've had come in. So just so everyone knows, in the budget for 2026, we're using another $1 million. So I mean, we're looking at we're under our 17% goal with our 2026 budget. So just so everyone knows where we stand. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Long-term debt. Paul, this is my attempt at getting you a debt service schedule. I'll send that over. I just have to update it for the next year. But this is right from our offering statement. So this is what we send out to the rating agencies and our bond buyers. So as of the last time we did this, just August 2024, we had approximately $86 million of total debt service, inclusive of the $16 million of interest payments. But that does not take into account the $29 million we have in bond anticipation notes. When I say $29 million, that's including the money we have in our capital projects for the fiscal 26 year, right? That's the amount I just worked with our bond advisor on. So that's the amount we are going to be asking for bond anticipation notes come August, right? So on top of the $70 million we have, we're asking for $29 million in a 1-year short-term note.
I mean, the schedule I was looking for was, and I don't even know if it, I mean, it's probably moot at this point, but my purpose of getting that schedule was just, I wanted, if it came out, to illustrate that, especially with people talking about the school budget, the debt service has a lot of stuff in there for for schools as well.
Majority.
And
Majority schools.
I think we got to let the public know that if I had that information, I could, you know,
So more not just the total amounts, but the usage of,
right.
Or the, yeah,
description of the bonds.
yep, yep. It's majority, yeah, I have that number. I can, yeah,
Well,
I
it's
got you.
really pointless now, but I asked for that, you know, a while ago too,
Yep.
so it was, but maybe for, you know,
Future.
next budget time, you guys can,
Yeah.
you know, for whoever, you know,
Incorporate that.
occupies the seat next year.
All right. Local cannabis tax. So, the Nightjar facility located on the Never Eat Shred of Wheat west side of town has doubled essentially their gross revenues month over month from about 50,000 to just shy of 86,000. What does that mean for the town? We get a 3% local tax on that. So first month we got just shy of $1,500. Last week we got a check for about $2,600 in the mail. So right now we're sitting at about $4,000 of grant fund balance, we call this, because this is in the grant fund, and this will be used to offset the youth and family services, any unanticipated expenses, or they've got a program that relates to, you know, teaching residents about, you know, cannabis use and things like that. Same thing with opiates, right? The opioid settlement money, same thing. So that's how we're reporting this. I just wanted to let everyone know now that this is kind of gaining traction, what we can kind of anticipate, right? So if this kind of holds steady, we're looking at about $15,000 at year end. So, and that was with, I was anticipating $100,000 of revenue. So it looks like it's ramping up. I imagine the summer months are going to be busier with more residents, especially, you know, out of town residents coming in, want to, you know, partake in some extracurricular activities. It's right there. So if you're going to do that, buy it in town, please. Okay, ARPA fund update. So as everyone may or may not know, ARPA had to be obligated by December 31st. Okay, so what that meant was, you know, for the past couple of years, the town had an ARPA committee that recommended projects and kind of, you know, packages from the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. So when it was all said and done, when projects were closed out, at the very end, there was about 135,000, 567, I'm sorry, of funds that once all the projects were closed out was left. That money is going to firefighter wages is going to offset that, right? So one of the revenue loss options with using the ARPA funds was offsets, and so we're going to use firefighter wages to offset that. That's a great use of the funds. This year we've, you know, kind of restructured the firefighting department, or the fire department, and we've kind of had some unanticipated expenses there. So this would be a good, you know, use of those funds. And it fits within the parameters of the grant. Yeah, Rich?
So, for the non-town ARPA funding,
Yep.
do we have a report from the recipients as to
The
their
461.
utilization of those monies?
Yeah, we did get that last year. I did not ask for it again this year because the majority of the individual not-for-profits said they spent it all. It was very few that said they didn't spend it all. And I remember, I think it was, Paul, didn't you share a report? It was a year ago, right? Aren't you on a not-for-profit that received money?
No.
Or am I thinking of Bill Weber? I'm thinking of Bill Weber. I think he's on the VFW. But I will, I'll pull that up. I think there's only one or two that didn't fully expend their funds. So I'll look at that.
I think it's American Legion.
American Legion, is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Yeah.
I knew it was one of those.
Yeah.
I'll look back at my records. I know he sent it to me, so I'll pull up that meeting and find the materials for it. So yeah, it's almost fully expended. There's $198,000 left of open encumbrances. So if anyone has any questions?
So, for the American Legion unspent funds, do those come back to the town? Or
No,
just
I
straight
don't,
to the government?
It was not, don't quote me on that American Legion. I just know Bill Weber was working on that, and he reported it to me. I just remember in my head. So I don't know if he was one of the individuals that didn't fully expend it. I just know we did follow up on those reports at one time.
Okay.
So I'll dig back into that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Questions there? All right. So one thing, I didn't have it on my agenda list, but we've talked about it numerous times, and I just want to show how are we progressing when we look at other towns, either around us or in our DERG. So 2 years ago, when I first compiled this, we were breaking the budget into 4 parts: the Board of Ed, the town, debt, cash, capital. So in the 23-24 budget year, you could see that East Lyme's Board of Ed made up 67% of our budget. The general fund, town operations made up 25%. Debt service was 7.25%, and we're just shy of 0.5% of cash capital. Fast forward a year, how do we progress? Debt service has increased. Cash capital also increased, right? We doubled cash capital essentially. Town service grew by about 0.25%, and the Board of Ed shrunk. As the other kind of departments or sections of the budget increased, the Board of Ed decreased from that 67% down to 66.25%. So how does the budget look now with our proposed 2026 numbers? So 2026, if everything, if the budget passes referendum, the Board of Ed will make up 65.4% of the budget. The town will grow to just over 26% of the budget. Debt service stayed the same. So debt service grew the same percentage as we're growing our budget, which is about 6.2%. Okay, cash capital increased 0.03%. So we did not make great strides in cash capital, although it did improve. But really, it's the drawing down, I guess, the reduction of the Board of Ed as a size of our budget and the increase of the town. It's just there's nothing, action items. It's just kind of how we're progressing, right? So you can see the town side operations is growing at a quicker clip than the Board of Ed at the moment. But debt service is going the wrong direction, and cash capital is, the last 2 years, it's kind of stabilized at that $1 million mark. So I just, just a visual, nice little visual. And I didn't get, you see this isn't rolled forward like the prior year with all those other municipalities. It's kind of hard sometimes to find these budget documents online before they're really published and approved. But once those are, I'll roll this forward and we'll do it again and see how we compare to our peers, right? So just something to keep in mind. And then just keep you apprised of what we're working on in the finance office. ADP, streamlining payroll, HR functions, is expected to go live July 1st. That's still expected to happen. One of the snags we ran into in this audit was our capital asset software crashed. It was on a computer that was in the back of a closet from like the 90s. It was probably older than I was. Well, when it finally crashed, it wasn't recoverable, right? So we need a new system. We purchased Sage Fixed Assets. I think it's $2,000 a year. Mitch is working on implementing that right now. The Board of Ed is also implementing. They're in the same system as us, so they're sharing that for their fixed assets as well. So we're expecting that to go live hopefully before the end of the year. Munis. Munis is live for the finance department for the most part, and we are still implementing utility billing downstairs. As part of this implementation of utility billing, Mitch really in the finance office is coordinating with other departments to bring in a streamlined merchant service payment platform. So right now, you probably, if anyone's done business with the town, you've probably seen on your statement Point and Pay or some various other merchant. We're trying to streamline that across the entire town to have really one merchant handle the payments. It feeds right into our accounting system. It's just a little more seamless integration. And then one other project we're working on in the finance office to hope, and this is kind of part of the delay in the expenditure report, is about a month and a half ago, we prepared the fiscal 21 health insurance. We resolved the health insurance dilemma, right? Does anyone remember this, of the taxation issue? We were charging a portion of our employees their health insurance premiums. We were taking them out after we were deducting the taxes. So it should be pre-tax, we were doing it post-tax. We fixed that for fiscal year '21, so those individuals affected could get their taxes amended before the deadline. We still have to do that for '22 and '23. So payroll is working right now to get those out as well. And since we're already doing an additional appropriation, with the board's blessing, I'd like to get those out this year as well. Right? We have a process to do it. We have a tax attorney. We have an external accountant that reviews it. It just comes down to, it's about $40,000 a year. Right? So this is a $120,000 problem that we're fixing. Right? I really don't like the idea of carrying it forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, once we do this additional appropriation, this will be included in that. Right? So, does anyone have any questions with that?
No, I just would say that this has been a very thorny issue that has taken a lot of your time in trying to get to the bottom of it. So I appreciate what you did there, and hopefully we can wrap this up.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say with the finance department, I think we are making. I know it feels like things are kind of slow trudging, and they are. But now with the implementation of Munis, we're almost right around the corner with ADP. We are really streamlining a lot of the processes in the finance office, and I think the end user, right, the departments, are starting to see the benefits of that. Systems are able to be scheduled in our current accounting system, whereas before they'd have to call if they wanted to report or how to even run the system because it's kind of archaic. So I feel like we're making good progress, and we're bringing the office and the town into the 21st century a little bit with some of these new software improvements.
If I could just say, it's been a painful process on a lot of fronts this year. Switching over the software, the cost, the time involved, and the training and the disruption to the flow within the various offices that had to learn how to use this new software. But we're going to start to see the benefit from all of that, I think, in the next year. And hopefully we won't cover any more payroll issue problems, and knock on wood. But, that was a total unexpected endeavor. We're almost to the end of it with, and great thanks to Kevin and the team that worked on that to get it resolved. So, and we're getting the audits completed that were delinquent. So we've made a lot of strides. This has been a very tough year for a lot of reasons, as you know, but I think I'm starting to see a little blue sky. I think Kevin is too. So let's hope so.
I think that was the end of it. I think I have some slides here for the pension. I do. So we can save these for the pension discussion.
And this whole presentation, will that go on our website under meeting material? Okay. All right, thank you. So next on the agenda is new business, the Coastal Resiliency Fund discussion and possible action. So I know, Dan, you started with the discussion as one of our initiatives this year was the coastal resiliency.
Yes.
We have the process there where the Board of Selectmen first approved it, and then under the state statute, it then comes to the Board of Finance.
Right.
And then it would go back to the Board of Selectmen.
That's correct. So tonight we're at the stage where the Board of Finance votes to approve the recommendation that I submitted to you previously. So that's where we are tonight, and that's what I hope that the board will do. So we can go to the next step.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen to create a coastal resiliency reserve fund.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? I will just say that this was something that was all part of the budget process, and everybody thought it was a good idea.
Yep.
So, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to create the Coastal Resiliency Fund signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 400.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the pension plan update. I know a few meetings back, Richard had requested that we do pension plan updates, so we set up the schedule so that the pension board meets quarterly, and so we met last week, and so we can move forward with the pension update and do this on a regular quarterly basis in the Board of Finance meeting following the pension board meeting.
Awesome. So so there's a few things that I emailed to the board that are on for those that are home watching. If you'd like to see what we're looking at, if you don't want to look at the screen, you want to see the rest of the document, if you go on to the town's website, eltownhall.com, you go to the pension board, there's a materials tab there. One of the items we're discussing tonight is the 5-year deterministic study. So what this does is kind of gives us a projection for the next 5 years. So there's a whole bunch of scenarios the report runs through, but the one I was interested in and want to share tonight is if we're assuming a 6.5% return, and we actually get that 6.5% return, right? So we're getting exactly what we expect. What is this going to do to the funding ratio of our pension, and then what does it do to the cash contribution requirements from the town? So when we look at this slide here, what we're looking at is from 24 to 29. If we're assuming we get a 6.5% return on our assets, what happens to our pension funding ratio? So you can see it kind of does dip down a little bit, right? So by 2027, our pension funding ratio dips to about 85% before plateauing right around 88%. Okay? So what does this mean for the funding ratio, or for the funding, right? So what does this mean for the taxpayers on the town contribution side? So if we are assuming the 6.5% return over the next 5 years, the blue bar is what the town will have to kick in. So you can see in 2026 we're estimating about 1.1, 2027 is about 1.25, and that 1.2, 1.25 number carries for the next foreseeable future, right? So that's what it is. Does anyone have any questions? So there's a report that was emailed that has these assumptions. The report changes the assumptions. So this one was if we get a 6.5% return. There was one if we get a 3% return. There was another if we get a 0% return. There might have been one also if we got a negative return. I wasn't quite sure about that, but I'd like to place our eyes on the rosy outlook.
Yeah. And it is important to look at it all because you go back in time and there was a 10-year span where there was a 0% return on the market. So, I think it made sense to.
And if we do look at the either the 3% return or the 0% return, that blue bar skyrockets. So if we don't get a return, that blue bar goes from about 1 million, 1.7 right off the bat. And then it starts hitting the twos very quickly. So, the pension board is, I would say the pension plan itself is pretty conservative. 40% of it is in fixed annuities, fixed assets, fixed income.
Fixed income.
I knew there was a
No
fixed word.
annuities.
Yep. And just to give everyone a snapshot of where the account stands today, April 30th, our account was about $31 million. $31,001,620. So we're floating right around that $31 to $33 million mark, and in between there. So I also attached, and they're on the website as well, flash reports they're called. So every month, and then every quarter, our investment advisors provide us with a report of how the plan did against its benchmark. We've been outperforming our benchmark pretty handedly over the last year, I believe. I didn't really know what else.
And even with market correction that had taken place in end of February, March, the plan still did very well through that. So,
just trying to pull it up. So the latest dashboard I have here, as of this is the March 31st report. This is the quarter report. this snapshot portfolio dashboard here, we can see year to date our portfolio is lagging the benchmark, but since the inception of our investment advisors, we're outperforming the benchmark, the blended benchmark. If anyone wants to know what the benchmark is, this is the benchmark we benchmark ourselves against. So, anyone have any questions? What I can do is I will email these as we get them, and when I have them put on the website, I'll just CC the Board of Finance so you guys can review this. And if anyone has any questions, you can let me know, or Denise, she's on the board. We can email the investment advisor if anyone has any particular questions.
And I would just add that one of the things that the pension board is going to do and have recommended to Mr. Cunningham is that in addition to overseeing the assets that are in the pension fund, since we also have employees that are currently in a defined contribution fund, and with this latest contract, with that being an option, we want to also include oversight by the pension board to make sure that our employees have the right options to choose, and they're getting the educational materials that they need so that we make sure that they understand the decisions that they're making. So, so we'd be looking at a change to the pension board roles and responsibilities to include oversight of those defined contribution and OPEB once we get that going as well. So a couple of changes will come down the line with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have anything further on the pension?
I would just say, I think, Paul, were you at the February pension board meeting? I think they're very insightful. We don't record them because they're in the small conference room. But if anyone's around, I think the next one's August, the second Thursday in August. They're very in depth, and I think they give you a pretty good understanding of the performance of the pension. So that's just my invitation.
Yep. Okay. Next on the agenda is public discussion. I don't see any public here. We'll then go on to board comments. I would just like to point out that May 22nd, the referendum on the budget is taking place from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the community center. It is a 6.69% increase in the budget and a 6.3% increase in the mill rate to 28.01. So please come out and vote. Anyone have any other comments they'd like to share? Richard?
In addition to the polling hours just described by our chairman, if you're unable to attend the voting that day, you are eligible to do an absentee ballot early or up to that date. So you have multiple options, but I would encourage the public to please go out and vote either way, by absentee or in person. It's important to have participation in the referendum, and it's important to actually act within your community instead of just putting comments in a paper. So I encourage that. The other item, just for tonight's agenda, I don't know if it just was something that was a typo, but the quarterly report on the pension fund, I don't believe was listed on the agenda. I would believe that would be old business. Did I miss it somewhere?
No, it's a new business.
Is there an amended agenda posted, or?
No,
was the, I sent out a tentative
That's
agenda.
the one I have, just had the A, so.
This one
I-
just has
Yeah, that's the one I had was just
the
A.
Coastal Resiliency Fund. It doesn't have anything about.
Is that stamped in from the town clerk?
I have the one that's stamped in and it does say pension plan update. So I think you
Sent.
a draft,
Yeah,
and then I responded to you saying, don't forget the pension plan update.
gotcha.
And then you did that and sent out the, but I know I printed mine from your last email, so,
And I just picked it up walking in.
oh, so maybe,
So- It did not have it, and it is not
Yeah,
stamped.
I got this off, I think, your email, so
Yeah.
it's probably the earlier, it was probably the draft then.
Yep.
Okay, as long as the stamped
stamped one has it.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So I
Sorry.
retract my
I might
remarks.
have printed the wrong one. I might
Yeah.
have just copied the wrong
That's
one.
okay.
I just wanted to add on to your comment that the other thing is, if you, if this is a summer home for you in East Lyme and you're registered to vote in your year-round home, if you own property here in East Lyme and pay taxes on your property, I think it's over $1,000, the registrars and the people working the polls will have the list of property owners and how much tax they pay. So they are eligible to vote. So if you own property here but have a full-time residence somewhere else, just want to encourage those people who are paying taxes in town too, that they are eligible to vote. Just bring ID.
And just one more comment.
Mhm.
I'd really like to salute the board and most of the department heads and our town administration for the collaborative spirit of working through the budget. It was a very difficult year. I don't think anybody fully got what they wanted, but I think there was a lot of teamwork involved, and I think the public needs to recognize that.
Thank you. Yep, I agree. Anything further?
No, I'm good.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 400.